Good morning, viewers, and welcome once again to your authoritative online discussion program, Graphic Talks 360. This is a production by Graphic Business, your authoritative financial newspaper, and Graphic News Plus. You can download the Graphic News Plus on any Android or iOS phone, desktop, computer, laptop, or tablet, and access all our 6 brands, namely the Daily Graphic, Graphic Business, the Mirror, Graphic Showbiz, Graphic Sports, and the Junior Graphic. Our topic for today is on latest development in the telecom sector and the way forward. I'm your regular host, Charles Benoni Okain, the assistant editor of Graphic Business, and my guest in the studio today is Mr. Kenneth Ashigbe. Mr. Kenneth Ashigbe is the CEO of the Ghana Telecommunications Chamber. Mr. Ashigbe, welcome.
Thank you very much. If you want to give me title, I'm not too sure it will be Mr. Kenneth Ashigbe would suffice. Okay. And we are also the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications. Yeah. And let me take this opportunity to wish Graphic a happy 70th anniversary. You know, great strides being made. And I like your fabric. You know, I like the 70th anniversary cloth. You know, nice one there. You know, leading the media industry, you know, as always.
Thank you very much. We just had some report from the GSMA, which talks about the mobile connectivity index. I see Ghana performed well. Can you give us some brief about it?
Well, thank you very much. So this is a survey that has been conducted, you know, annually. And if you look at Ghana's performance since 2014, we have been making steady progress. And last year, if you look at the 2018 index that came, Ghana crossed the 50% index mark, which then moved us into a transition telecommunication market. And from the 50.12 in 2019, again, we've made progress, and we currently are 52, over 52%. And so Ghana is the only country in Africa that is above 50% in the transition zone. Behind us is Nigeria, Cape Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, and all of that. And it just tells you that if you take all the various indices that are being measured in terms of infrastructure, in terms of affordability, in terms of the readiness of users and content and all of that, we're doing quite well. There's a lot more that we can do, but progress is really being made as a country.
What does it mean for Ghana to have that?
Well, it's what it does is that it measures various indices. So it takes the issues of coverage. It takes the issues of infrastructure. It looks at issues of, when it comes to affordability, it looks at the tariffs, how cheap we are relative to others. It looks at the issues of taxation. It looks at the issues of affordability of devices. Then also it uses the use case, how we're using it. It also looks at issues of the gap, gender gap, and all of that. And so in all of these, it measures our progress. So it goes for the policymakers, the regulators, and the players, as well as consumers in the market, that so much is being done with technology. And it just tells us that we're making progress, but we could really be doing a lot better than we are, though you would say that in West Africa we are the top. And even in Africa, we place about 4th or 5th.
That is good news for us. You mentioned one of the achievements being taxes.
No, I'm not too sure I would call even that, but it's one of the indices being measured.
Yeah, it brings me to one of my questions that has to do with that unfortunate news that we heard in Parliament by our sector minister, who reported that between 2015 and 2017, telcos hid about 470 million Ghana cedis from the GRA. Knowing your sector to be one of the major contributors to our
10%.
Taxes, yes, having that kind of money is a bit worrying. Can you brief us a bit about that?
You know that this statement that the minister made was first made in November 2019, you know, about the common platform and some potential and estimated under declaration. And when the minister made the statement, we wrote immediately to the GRA, copied the Ministry of Communication, Ministry of Finance, and the NCA asking for the report. Because, it's standard practice. Whether you're doing revenue assurance, whether you're doing a tax audit, you would want to share your findings with the auditees. And then, you do a lot of reconciliation, explanations will be done. And then after that, you then come up with your final position as we speak, So from when we wrote that letter, and then when the minister also went to Parliament to make that declaration, and there has been no formal response, of any report, that had come that we are engaged in. And we are looking forward to that, because
have you made any move towards that?
And as I said, we've written, and what's, that our members should be giving that. And we engage GRA on a constant basis. In all our engagements, really nothing like that have come. I've heard the GRA Commissioner General also mention that we wait for that report to come. You see, the thing about the telecommunication sector is the fact that all of these organizations are multinational organizations, which then means that the owners themselves are not present here and running the organizations. Even for some of them, the shares were floated. For some of them, the state even has, shares in them. So you have appointed people, a board with fiduciary responsibility, and the board has managers who manage these organizations. And so that if anybody is able to hide taxes, then definitely even for you, the shareholders, then your revenues could not be assured. And then also is the fact that, the owners put in place very tough revenue assurance processes to ensure that every CD, every PESWA is accounted for. And it is very, very rigorous, that is done, because all layers of people have to be satisfied that whatever you declare to your shareholders, whatever you declare to the government as taxes, is exactly what is being collected. And we have very robust systems of assuring revenue to the extent that you then would then pay your taxes out of it. So far as we are concerned, we'll wait to see the report. But our tax paying, the measures we've put in place are very robust. And we will just wait for those reports to come. So that I'm pretty sure that once we sit with, the tax man, we should be able to explain all of this. But we want to restate that we have not under-declared any taxes. We've not engaged in any criminality. We are still awaiting for that report to come. And the interesting thing when the minister spoke is that he spoke of estimated and potential. So, you'd think that if you are going to, talk about under-declaration, at least it should be exact. So we just pray that some of these things, instead of they being put into the media, at least we could have those engagements before, it comes in. Because at the end of the day, you want to attract investments also into your country, either locally or internally. And, these things also do not really send the right pictures out. But we're hopeful that with the various overtures that we've made, we'll be able to really deal with this so that, government would also be assured of the fact that the right taxes are being paid. Shareholders would also, rest assured, because now all of us who bought shares in these companies, we all have stakes in this.
But to what extent has this news affected the business, locally and internationally, for instance?
Well, I think that if we had just left it at just the announcement, the impact would have been great. But, our markets in Ghana, are not as sensitive as they are globally, but they definitely still shake investor confidence, and not only even just in the industry, but generally even in our country as a whole. But what has happened in all the situations where it has happened is that at least we've also stated our case, and Ghana is known to be a land of rule of law, and so I'm pretty sure that investors know that once we have assured them that we've done the right things, if anything happens, the courts will be the arbiters for them in the overall.
Yeah, but how often do you engage your sector minister and the regulator? If I may bring in GRA2 with some of these things so that it doesn't get to this stage?
Well, I think the engagement happens on a constant basis, and especially when issues come up or before issues come up.
But this never came up before?
No, not really. In terms of, because we're engagement, we're discussing even CST reduction with the minister. We had a meeting with Ministry of Finance. We had a meeting with GRA. If that even went into fixing the 15th September timeline for all of that. It had not come up. The minister, as we speak today, we have sought the assistance of the minister to deal with the challenge that we had. Somewhere last year, apparently, EPA had taken their fees and charges to Parliament, for an increase, and there was no engagement. And we only saw in March, when COVID was hitting, that there was about averagely around over 500% increments in their permits charges, to the extent that if you look at the figures in 2019, we're projecting to have spent about 3.8 million. The new figures they brought was 14 million. And so even as we speak, that is currently affecting the ability of the tower companies to be able to roll out, Unfortunately for us, the minister is helping us deal with that. So that just says to say that, there are quite engagements with the ministry. With NCA, constantly we are engaged. There was even a situation in which some traditional leaders had locked up some of our cell sites. It was through the engagement of NCA that NCA intervened and was able to get that open. We're working with the NCA on this revision of tower guidelines. So there are a lot of things that we do together. GRA, we work with them. Currently, we sit on a committee at the GRA looking at e-commerce taxation and all of that. So in terms of engagement, it happens. But can it be improved? Yeah, constantly. As any relationship, we could improve it so that some of these conversations, we could have it, behind the scenes rather than, have it in the open.
What is the relationship with Kelly GVG2?
Well, you see, at the beginning when Kelly was being done, because it was part of the law, the common platform, as operators, we really did not have an issue with their connection. Our issues was with the privacy, data protection of our customers, and we really wanted to ensure that that was guaranteed. And so based on the engagements that we had, from the technical side, the commercial side, the regulatory and the legal side, we've been able to put systems in place that assures the privacy of you and I, our data. We've even gone to an extent of signing an NDA and an indemnity, provisions with them. So it's been very cordial. Our members meet with them, when there are questions, they send them, they answer the questions and all of that. So I think generally, so far as we are concerned, really this, it's a professional relationship.
Oh, okay. But so, would you say that this has helped telcos in declaring their earnings?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. It's a layer for government to wanting to assure itself. But insofar as revenue assurance for the industry is concerned, we really did not need an external party to come and help, do that. It's something that we do on a constant basis as your products evolve, technology evolves, you're constantly improving that. And I go back again and say that you need to realize the relationships that run. This is not an organization where you as owner, you sit there to ensure that everything is running well. So you need to put in the right revenue assurance processes to ensure that, every revenue that comes to the organization is declared. And also for the businesses, because they have, shareholders that are not, they need to be able to demonstrate that transparency to the shareholders. So it's something that, in a Kaizen way, constantly trying to improve it. And we do that. So we didn't need a third party to make us do what we ought to do, which is in the interest of the business.
But now it exists, but it doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't. So far as we are concerned, it's basically something that the state wants to use to assure itself. And, this issue about under declarations, it's been with the industry for too long. And so for us, if a system would come that would assure, A lot of the people who make it, it is in our interest. So that at least, that conversation would end. And then we can engage our regulators, engage the policymakers on the way that we can use technology, connectivity to help our country develop. So it's good that it's here.
But have you seen any variations since Kelly came in? Have you seen any variations in terms of your numbers?
No, not necessarily. You see, the thing that is happening is that there's an organic growth that's happening, in terms of where we used to be. Technology itself has changed. You have evolved from 1G, now you are at 4G, you are 4G plus. In terms of connectivity, in the past, Charles, graphic, you didn't have to, I didn't need to have a phone to be able to read my newspapers. On a daily basis, I get that. That is utilization of data. That is growth. We have seen mobile money come up. The uptake has gone up. The expansion of coverage. People who were not customers of the telcos currently are up there. We have fintechs coming up. So in terms of the use cases, it has increased so widely that there are organic growths that are happening. This unfortunate thing of COVID, one of the good things about it is the whole digitization that has happened. All of that means a lot more people are coming into use technology. And in the past, if you go to Chame, you wouldn't see a lot of smart devices, but also now smart devices are coming up. Another thing about it is that the price of these devices are coming down. It's becoming affordable. Everybody can use it. So look at how many students have had to also go online. Fortunately for us, the industry is zero rated, all of that. But a lot more people are using that, even in the churches and all of that. In everything we do, we are playing with it, we're learning with it, we're working with it. And so basically, those growths, they are more organic than anything bringing them in.
There you go, viewers. Before we take a short break, we've realized what has happened with regards to the issues of taxation, underreporting, and all the issues that came up. Now, when we come back, we are going to go back to another sensitive issue, which has to do with interconnect charges. We'll be back shortly.
Have you thought of having access to your news at any time and anywhere? Graphic Communication is giving you the opportunity to have news not only in hard copy but also in a digital form. Simply download the Graphic News Plus from Google Play Store on your Android and App Store on your iOS device and get your digital news from your favorite daily graphic, Graphic Business, The Mirror, Graphic Showbiz, Junior Graphic, and Graphic Sports. Download your Graphic News Plus now and choose your preferred package daily, weekly, monthly, and annually, and access free news on various interest areas as well. Visit us on graphic.com.gh for further information. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news.
Welcome back again to Graphic Talks 360. We've been discussing the latest developments in the telecom sector and the way forward. We talked about issues of taxation. And now we're going to issues around interconnect charges. Mr. Chibe, to date, government charges on CST and interconnect rate. The telcos claim that it's a double taxation. Can you explain why you think so?
Well, you see, the thing is that there is, for every call that Charles I would make to you, there's a CST charge that is on it. But if you are on network A and I'm on network B, when you call, the call comes to my network, it would transfer that. There's an interconnect to network B, and then network B would then send it to you. So it's basically one call. But what government is saying is that the services between our two cells, also the charges that we should be charging CST and declaring that, so it's a multiple layer of the taxation. It's a tax on it. Already CST itself, on the CST, there's VAT on it, there's a tax on the tax. Now when it comes to the interconnect, so it means for a call that originates from network A to B, there's a tax and a tax already on it on CST and VAT, and then the interconnect as well. But, the law has been passed. The government went back to parliament, to say that that's what it ought to be. So currently we pay taxes on the interconnect charges. Fortunately for us, Government has reduced CST from 9% now to 5%. So the CST on interconnects has also come down a bit.
But would you say that some of these things are the reasons we see cost of data so high, cost of making calls so high?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is that, Charles, if you look at the GSMA mobile connectivity index, one of the things to look at with affordability is the issue of taxation. In Ghana, if you look at the affordability index, the rest of them in terms of device charges, in terms of the mobile rates are coming down, but the tax are going up. So it's because of industry-specific taxes like this, which discriminates. CST discriminates on our industry because it's only our industry that pays that. So if you are an investor and you are bringing 1 million cedis to invest into any industry, for example, if you brought it into any other industry, you won't pay, your consumers will not pay 5% CST. But if you bring it into telecommunication, that you would suffer that. Already also in this industry, the last time we did, now we're seeing that for every CD that came into the market that you pay to any of the operators, close to 40% goes back to government as taxes, as fees and charges. I'm telling you, we've just been talking about this EPA, astronomical increases. You go to, when you're dealing with all these MMDAs, anywhere, right-of-way fees, they are so high, multiple places. Another thing you would want to look at in terms of, it's the charges that we have on even spectrum. So whilst a bigger market like Tanzania was charging 20 million for the 2x10s, we did 67 million when we, auctioned the 2x10 4Gs as well. So, you have all those differential charges and all of that contributes to the high cost of data. Another challenge we also have in this country is that in terms of local content, there's very little local content. That's why content like what you're doing now, it's a good thing. So that it's not like if anytime anybody wanted to even send emails to anybody, you still had to go into, the servers are not local. You have to go outside to go and consume it. A lot of us, Netflix, anytime you're doing that. But if you took somebody in the UK, if he wanted to watch Netflix, the server was just sitting in the UK. So it's just a local trunk to that. But for us, everything, it's an African problem, it's a Ghanaian problem. All of that contributes to it. So the more we can create our local content, the more we can work at, harmonizing the cost of, the inputs to telecommunication, the more we can deal with challenges like fiber cuts. Typically last year, we spent over 5-point-something billion fixing damages to fiber cuts, not new fiber laying, but fixing the damages that have been caused. All of that contributes to the high cost of running telecommunication business. And definitely it would be translated into the cost that you and I as consumers pay.
When you talk about fiber cuts, most of the time we see your members digging to lay fiber. Now, after they've laid it, they leave it there. So it becomes an easy target for anybody to, dig out or do something. Whose responsibility should it be to cover it up when it's done?
So generally, for every fiber that would be laid, you cover it with a sandbed, and so it will be, a few of these would be the exception rather than the norm, because most of the cuts are not even what you see from just the fact that it's been laid bare. It's when the majority of the problem comes from road drainage and bridges. That's where most of the problem comes from. Private developers also, are a problem. Some people would think that when they see fiber, they think that it's like the past where it was copper. So they want to go and cut it and steal the copper out of it. So yes, there might be a few cases where some itinerant subcontractors might not cover what it is that they have done. But majority of the challenges is not from that. And it's one of the things that we also have been telling our members, not only are we supposed to cover, but in terms of the depth to which we are laying, 1.2 meters, make sure that you have a warning tape above it, and you have markers so that people would also know that this is what is there. And then these kind of engagements that we do, educating the general public so that people will know that, this fiber, it's what enables me to be able to make my call, my data and all of that.
When would this fiber thing end? What would this fiber compensation?
Charles, I had to go beach road project that is being done, Accra to Tema Beach Road. We are, because the road has been done, we're experiencing a lot of cuts, so we are there to go and engage. We have formed, at the national level, there is a national engineering coordinating team that is made up of all the road agencies and all the utilities, water, telecoms, and the plan with that is that by 2022, we would end the encroachment within this right-of-way. If we do that, the cutting of roads, destruction of fiber, telecommunication lines, the other utilities like water, we are hoping that that would end, but it would require a lot of effort. Fortunately, and that's also another product of engagement with our minister. There's a cybersecurity law that is currently in cabinet and going to go to parliament. In that, there's going to be telecommunication infrastructure is going to be classified as critical national infrastructure, so that when you damage it, the repercussions will be higher. We, as the chamber, we have engaged. We've done some engagement with the judiciary. So, working with the Judicial Training Institute, we've trained all the circuit court judges and the high court judges. So that beyond just the talk, we also would be able to bring some punitive action. The former Chief Justice, before she left, extended the mandate of a corporate court that we had to be able to handle all of these telecommunication issues. So that is going to be done. We're planning to train the prosecutors and the investigators so that when these cases come, they're able to handle them well. We've also approached the Attorney General so that she could also give us the mandate to be able to have our own prosecutors, like SNET will have, so that we are a bit more passionate than what the police would do. And all of this are efforts to be able to ensure that these fiber cut distractions will stop. Last year, it's the COVID that has slowed us down. Working with the NCA and NECT, we went to the Eastern region, Ashanti region, Central region, and 4 regions in Ghana, doing some education. Otherwise, we should have gone to the rest of the country. So it's a gradual process, but the pain is $5 million for just repairs. It's too much. That's money that we should be using to expand the networks, provide all of us, so that the challenges that people have with my connectivity and all of that, we really can resolve.
So I'll come back to the issue of the CST. But let me ask a question about the fiber cuts. In other jurisdictions, telcos have one duct that they lay all their pipes in. In Ghana, what we see is MTN goes to lay, tomorrow Vodafone goes to lay, Airtel Tigo also goes to lay, and they keep digging and digging and digging. Why can't we have just one, like we have with the masts?
So Charles, I think you've asked a very, very important question. Ideally, that's what should be the process, and we should not have the situations where multiple diggings are done. So this is a typical example of a duct, that is laid, and within the ducts, you have other smaller ducts of different colors. So the plan should be that at least the trenches we should have the same trench that is dug. In that trench that is done for utilities. So in that trench that is dug, we then can have water at one portion, then you can have electricity, high voltage at another, then the telecoms will be another, and then within the section for the telcos, then we can divide them into various slots so that the various companies can share that. It's one of the things that NECT is taking up. We are trying to engage various partners. We know that there are places where World Bank like that has pushed projects like that. So as the drains are being done, that duct is being done. And even in Ghana, if you take the Pokwasi project, a similar thing like that was done. So we really need to push to get to that point. So that this issue of roads having been done, then people are cutting, and even your own lawn, you finish your lawn in the reservation and people are digging, all of that can stop. Because you see, the interesting thing is that the process of even digging, one person digging and another, even results in, cannibalization. And so it's something that really we're working at, and we need to really be able to get to that. And this one, I blame it on those of us who are called engineers and the planners. It really should stop. And another problem that causes this is our MMDAs. They carve off the reservations, people are encroaching upon them. And if you look at the amount of money Ghana spends on paying compensations, because a lot of those buildings that we need to relocate, when roads are coming, those reservations would have been acquired by government long ago. And you see these MMDAs, then they use it, and then people want they are rezoning some of these reservations. So now even some of the strategies that the road agencies have done is that when you're going to build the roads, they build the roads on the side and leave the reservations in the middle. That is difficult to encroach upon, so there are various strategies, but the call for me is to all of us, the professionals, and that's what NEXT stands for. Sometimes we allow the politicians to dictate the way these things should go. And you see, for the politicians, it's about the next elections, about who is going to vote for them, how nice they will seem to people. But in the end, it becomes more expensive for us, because if you look at how much the millions that we pay in compensation, and most of the time when these roads were building them, they come as loans. And if it's the World Bank and those development partners, they will tell you that their money is not going to go into the paying of compensation. But they will also tell you that you cannot forcibly eject even the squatters. You have to pay for compensation. And government has to spend a lot of money into these things. And if we would all be doing the right things, the amount of money that goes into our roads can expand the road such that you and I would have better roads to live on that we are here. And so it's for all of us as professionals to ensure that the right things are.
Okay, we'll take our second break. When we come back, we'll look at another very sensitive issue which has to do with service quality.
Have you thought of having access to your news at any time and anywhere? Graphic Communication is giving you the opportunity to have news not only in hard copy but also in a digital form. Simply download the Graphic News Plus from Google Play Store on your Android and App Store on your iOS device and get your digital news from your favorite daily graphic, Graphic Business, The Mirror, Graphic Showbiz, Junior Graphic, and Graphic Sports. Download your Graphic News Plus now and choose your preferred package daily, weekly, monthly, and annually, and access free news on various interest areas as well. Visit us on graphic.com.gh for further information. Graphic News Plus, connecting people through news.
Thank you and welcome back to Graphic Talk 360. Today our topic is the development within the telecom sector and the way forward. Mr. Shibi, service quality issues never goes away. We hear your members talk about spending so much money in building that and building that. Yet still, there are issues of service quality that subscribers talk about. What is happening when it comes to...
Charles, well, it is a fact that over $6 billion have been spent in terms of expanding infrastructure.
Over what period?
Since 2015.
$6 billion?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Ghana cedis?
Yeah, $1 billion.
Dollars
in terms of capex.
Wow.
Has been spent in expanding infrastructure. And you would also agree with me that infrastructure that we had, since that, even compared 2015 to date, it's not the same. The Mobile Connectivity Index, which is an independent report, even lays claim to that. But the challenges with service quality is multidimensional. It definitely starts with the infrastructure that has been put in place, right from the cell sites all to the active, networks and all of that. But there are various components. Some of the challenges is the fiber cuts that I talk about, So if a cell site, the connectivity to that point is fiber and fiber is cut, you definitely would suffer it. Some of the other challenges we also suffer is also from this wrong, perception that people have about towers and, they being cancerous and all of that, which, are not proven by fact. It's scientifically not proven. And so sometimes, especially in built-up areas like Accra, you find out that there might be congestion in a place and you would want to then have to inject another tower into the space so that you'll be able to improve service quality. But so there'll be a pushback for some people, and they will result in that. Another challenge is also the availability of spectrum. Because if you don't have spectrum, then what you then have to do is that you have to use the same spectrum, putting a lot of cell sites and all of that also then contributes to the challenges. That's why it was good when COVID hit, and then NCA, the government through NCA gave MTN and Vodafone free extra spectrum to be able to handle the load. I think was for a period. The period has ended, and I know that MTN and Vodafone wrote back to the NCA asking for extension. I know that currently Vodafone has had its extended. I'm hoping that MTN also will be done, so that with that you then be able to carry the extra load that comes. So there are multiple, and also another challenge is also the quality of the devices we have. A lot of, there are a lot of smuggled, poor quality devices that also come into the market.
But whose duty is it to check that? I mean, when it comes to...
I think the NTA is doing quite well with that. So the NTA is at the hub, the main port, and they have a type lab that have been put in place so that when these devices come, they are tested to make sure that it's the right devices that come. But unfortunately for us, that our borders are porous. And phones are also such that people can even put them into their pockets and, bring them in. So there's a lot of smuggling that come in. That's why for us as the chamber, we always advise that we should buy, phone from the original manufacturers. Go to their shops. You might find out that the purchase price might be slightly expensive, but the total cost to you as a human being, some of them are even health. And then the service quality are all part of those challenges that we face. So, and I'm pretty sure all of us would agree to the fact that the quality we used to enjoy, a few years ago, is not what we were getting today. And we'll constantly try to push it. But I say another thing we need to bear in mind is that we live in a middle-income country where, quality of utility and all of that is not where we all want it to be. So the challenges with power, supply and all of that. And because of that, you find out that for all of our cell sites, you also, apart from your diesel generators that you have there, you also would want to put backup batteries. Some of them even have solar. But unfortunately, another challenge you also face is the vandalization. You find people go in there, go and steal the diesel, go and steal the batteries. There are even situations where a whole generator has also been stolen. And all of that tends to compound the challenges we have with the quality of service we have.
Are your services nationwide?
Yes, generally we have, if you look
100% coverage?
So if you take all the district capitals, and for all our members, their licenses come with some coverage conditions. So if you take 2G, 3G, generally I think we're almost covering the whole nation. 4G has been a bit slow in coming, but I'm pretty sure that also we would get to where we need to get to. If you look at the reports from even and that's why I like to point to third-party data. So the GSMA report is available. You see that in terms of our coverage, 2G, 3G, quite expansive. Or definitely even 4G, all the district capitals have been covered, apart from the new ones that are being rolled in. So that has to be done. But our satisfaction is if we are able to cover the whole country with 4G, ensure that everybody can have access to that. And there are various ways that we can do it. Part of the responsibility is our members. Part of the responsibility is also the states. We contribute to the GIFEC fund, and that is supposed to help in that. Government has plans to be able to roll that in. That has to happen. For me, another way that I espouse for getting coverage is that you will need to get to the point where there's demand in all the places. Because there are places where if you go and put a cell site, the cost of your diesel alone, because most of those places themselves might not have electricity. So you might have to be powering with diesel. The cost of the amount of revenue you generate on that tower would not be able to pay 10% of your diesel cost. But one of the ways to be able to do this is to let demand drive it. So that if government can, ensure, especially for, even take education, take some of these cheap compounds that are there, ensure that these places also can demand some amount of data. So that for any of these places, that there's some amount that you're expecting every month. Definitely that will pull service providers to come there. They will not need anybody to send them there. And there are examples that we have seen with some collaboration between Huawei and some of our members. They went into some of these rural communities, brought some technologies that were very low cost and running on the back of solar. The NCA also brought up a policy that allowed them to refarm some of the existing spectrum. And so what then happened was that initially they were going to do 2G, but then they added 3G. By the time they put those things there, after a few months, they realized that the uptake was up. So once we also invest into cost-efficient technologies, we work together with the private sector, the public sector. We work together with some of these donor agencies just to make sure that there's demand that we will really be able to cover the country. But strategies that have worked in other places is also that you find out that if you go into some of the Scandinavian places, spectrum is virtually given almost for free. But your obligation is to ensure that you are covering the entire country. But what we rather do is that we look at spectrum as wanting to make hefty amount of money. But we forget that the last time the auction was done, they were offering 2 by 5. Only one was taken. And for all those days that spectrum remains unutilized, it's revenue that is withering away. So it's important that we do a balance between how much we front load the cost of spectrum to how we are able to get that to be used so that we can really have the coverage that we desire.
What is the difficulty in rolling out this service, even in Accra?
So that's, you see, I think generally in Accra,
because we still see people from where I live, for instance, I see Edge.
Yes, you see, so that's why I say to you that what tends to happen is that there's a lot of reuse of the same spectrum. Then there are also issues where, especially in the very built-up areas, where you might have congestion on the networks, and you want to be able to expand, putting other towers. You have the challenges in being able to, in these particular communities, bring the towers into these spaces. So it's a combination on all of that, and especially when it comes to the built-up areas, because in terms of those areas, it's not as if the coverage is there. It might be some of the challenges might be these things that I'm talking to you about. Because if, let's say, the fiber that goes to a particular cell site in your area is cut, what then will have to happen? That heavy traffic in that area will have to be rerouted through microwave. And microwave, the capacity is so small. If your fiber was giving you this big, if you took like a pipe, this big diameter, microwave is giving you about this. And then all the traffic that was on this big diameter, you're now forcing it through this. So what then will happen is that you might have those challenges that you have with the quality of service you get.
So it will take a bit of time.
It will take time. It will take all of us working together to ensure that, one, we can get a lot of spectrum into the market. Two, another thing we need to do also is that by the way we run our spectrum management in this country, when the spectrum is giving you, it is giving you for a particular technology. So you have MTN currently has Vodafone. They all have 2G, 3G, and 4G. There are 2G specific spectrum, 3G specific spectrum. So it's like going to Kumasi, and they will tell you that this road that they've given to you, you can only drive 10 kilometers per hour. If you want to drive 100 kilometers per hour, go and drive on that other road. Whilst they could have allowed you that all of us, let's use, based on the technology that I have, the road has been given to you. The way, once you are driving within the right speed, use that. Unfortunately for us, when this current government was in power the first time, they brought the technology neutrality policy in place. We know the NCA is working towards that. It would really be good to deploy that so that for every operator, I look at what technologies are available and then I decide what I want to run. So that for even Airtel Tigo, that has a lot of spectrum in the 2G and 3G, they could refarm that and use that for whatever technology they want. So those are ways in which we can make a better use of the spectrum that we have. And I hope that we are able to see the NCA, it's pushing that. We hope that we'll be able to get that concluded.
Once a while, we hear reports of the regulator slapping some fines on you because you've not been able to meet some service quality standards. It's been quite a long time that we heard about that. What does that mean?
Well, I know the last time it became public knowledge was when the mean operating score, there was, and that issue is currently at the electronic tribunal, But fortunately, what is also at the back of that, there were various challenges that came, and we were able to, based on our conversations with the regulator, deal with the issues on our side and their side. And I think generally it's resulting in all of us being able to work better, because the regulator will tell you, I remember my very first meeting with Mr. Joe Anochi. He came and said their business is not to come and find operators. Their business is to ensure that the customer has the best quality of service. So I hope and that we'll continue to do a lot more engagement between ourselves to see what are the things that we can do together to be able to ensure that the consumer gets better quality. But definitely as regulators, they need to keep us within the regulation. And so that's that for them to do. It's just that it has to be fair.
In just about 3 minutes, let's discuss this last topic on the Electronic Communications Act. This act has been there since 2008.
Yeah.
Looking at how your sector evolves, even on per second
basis, yes.
Do you think this act is time for us to look at it?
I think that generally all the acts and the regulations that govern, including the policies in the space, need a lot of future proofing. Because the industry is so dynamic and changing. When 2008, 4G, where was 4G? Now we have 5G coming. The IoT is now that's coming. Artificial intelligence is coming. But fortunately for us, the ministry is engaged in reviewing its policy. The policy is even older than the act, and so there's a revision that is being done. And for even us as a chamber, we are trying to also bring together industry to look at the roadmap. The mistakes we've made with 4G, we shouldn't make the same mistakes with 5G in terms of allocation of spectrum and all of that. And to be able to do that, it would require all of us coming together to be able to ensure that we can discuss these issues and figure out ways in which we can ensure that we have policies, we have regulations that would ensure that Ghana would be a winner. There's the opportunity to use this digital transformation to jump the development gap. But to be able to do that, we need to move from the old paradigm where it was policymakers, was government alone making these policies and bringing it to us. It's not enough to even just bring the operators. We need to ensure that other industries, other segments of the market are at the table when these policies are being driven. And most importantly, it's important that the consumers would also be brought along so that all of us together will be able to craft a policy that would enable us to be able to win better than we've been doing.
Well, viewers, all too soon, our time is up. Would have loved to have some more time to go into some detail. We have been discussing today developments within the telecom sector and the way forward. My guest has been Mr. Kenneth Ashigbe, who is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications. Until we meet next week, goodbye.